Welcome to the Freebirth podcast, a supportive space for people who are learning, exploring, and celebrating their autonomous choices in childbirth. Together, we'll unpack truths, share personal stories, and claim our ability to birth freely and intuitively. Here's your host, Emily Saldea.
Do you know it's your calling to become an authentic midwife? Do you dream of attending women in birth? Have you felt frustrated trying to be a birth worker in the system? Are you looking for a better way to walk with women in total integrity, supporting mother-led physiological birth? Are you dreaming of building a thriving, profitable business as a birth coach? Well, we are thrilled to announce that enrollment for our Radical Birth Keeper School is now open. Classes begin June 1st, so head over to our website and get the details. The time is now, and we need you to join us in this birth revolution. www.radicalbirthkeeperschool.com.
Hi, I'm Nancy Lucina, a mother of three, a doula, shamanic facilitator, sound healer, and women's coach. And I'm so excited to announce the launch of my latest course with Freebirth Society, Conscious Conception, Welcoming Your Spirit Baby Home. I created this course because I know that conception is not just a physical process, but also a deeply emotional and spiritual one. The children coming to Earth now are so wise, and they're asking a lot of us as their mothers-to-be, that we really purify our minds, bodies, and souls so that we can hold their highest light throughout pregnancy, birth, and motherhood. And this is not an easy process. In fact, it's one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I'm here to guide you through your own epic journey of welcoming your spirit baby home. If you're on the journey of conception and you want to make that journey conscious, connected, and spiritually rich, then this course is for you. Go to freebirthsocietycourses.com to learn more.
We are celebrating two incredible things with this week's episode: Nancy's recent free birth and the launch of her latest course with Freebirth Society, Conscious Conception, Welcoming Your Spirit Baby Home. We get into both of these incredible topics in our discussion today, so if conscious conception and spirit babies is new to you, be sure to tune in. Nancy shares about what turned out to be a 45-minute birth with the baby born in his caul. All right, well, let's just frame this episode with, we have a very finite window of construction that we're avoiding. So if you hear any construction in the background, please forgive us in advance, and we're going to do our best. Hi, Nancy.
Hi.
You're a mom again.
I am. Mom of three. I can't believe it.
Wow, me either. So we're here today to kind of weave together three different beautiful stories or angles. We are here with Nancy because she just free birthed her third beautiful child. And she also just completed, and we are actually celebrating in this conversation, the offering of Freebirth Society's recent course, which is Nancy's newest creation, Conscious Conception, Welcoming Your Spirit Baby Home. And so this is going to be a conversation today exploring what is conscious conception, or not, what are spirit babies, and how does that kind of weave into our lives and to Nancy's personal story. And we'll talk a little bit about the course, but really we're here today to just kind of start beginning to open up this topic and using Nancy's personal life and her beautiful stories and her creations, both of her children and of all of her wisdom, to kind of unpack this topic today, as I know that it's not a talked about topic enough. And yet most women we know, I think, have a little like tingle in their bodies about it. Like, I think a lot of women are drawn to it and curious about it, but there isn't a lot of content out there to, digest and learn about. So I'm particularly excited about this course coming out, which we'll talk about more later, but is just such a beautiful guide and offering for the women who are interested. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
How are you doing?
Good. I'm in my second week postpartum, so I'm a little bit in that postpartum bubble and little haze feeling, but in general, doing really, really well. My 12-year-old is with my son now, so hopefully he'll be good for another hour.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm good.
So where do you want to start? Do you want to start with contextualizing this with your second born and that conscious conception story, or should we just kind of start with the brass tacks of like, what is this, if this is a brand new idea for anybody?
So yeah, I think we can start with conscious conception. What is that? I mean, it's pretty much what it says, consciously conceiving. So being intentional about calling in your child, arriving to that point of, making love with some kind of intention. A lot of the times it can be kind of a ceremonial experience for people. It means different things for different women. Some women want to prepare their bodies physically and do certain cleanses before. Others want to connect in a real spiritual way to their baby, which kind of brings us to the next topic. What is spirit babies? And for me, spirit babies, just babies in their spirit form. My husband was asking me that this morning, like, well, wait, so is every baby before they come in a spirit baby? And I'm like, yeah, I think so. I think it's just a baby in its spirit form. And I think as we evolve on this planet, we continually open ourselves up more and more to receive information from those spiritual realms. And so I feel like more and more women are beginning to say things like, I'm actually sensing the spirit of my baby. I'm sensing what his or her name might be, or I'm getting like these memories of maybe even past lives we've had together, or whatever that looks like. And so,
Or even like future visions, like a lot of my son who hasn't come yet, when I feel him the most, he's not a baby. He's like older. He's like, I don't know, maybe 9, 10, 11 or something. And so I like the idea of like a spirit baby, obviously, because the soul will come in as a baby first, because that's how the physical realm works. But it's really just spirit. It's really just these souls or spirit in whatever learning how to listen and play with that.
Exactly. Yeah. Future visions also very common. It's true. And, for me, my first conscious conception was with my second son, who's only 1.5 years. And I talked a little bit about our journey on our previous podcast that I recorded around his birth, which is called Screaming to the Goddess. So that goes into detail about his journey if we don't have time to get into it today. But basically, I felt him communicating with me for years, since the day I met my husband, who emphatically told me, I will never have kids, just so you know. And he was dead set on that. And I was like, that's odd, because
Right.
When I look back on that period of my life, my son's name is Elijah. I literally feel that Elijah was guiding me from afar, above, however you want to put it, to meet my husband so that we could eventually conceive him and start our family together. But because I remember these really specific moments of literally hearing a voice in my head, and it was just so crystal clear. And as soon as I met Brandon, my husband, it was like, this is your spiritual partner and the father of your next child. Boom. And I'm like, okay, how's this going to go down? So it's from that moment that Elijah began to communicate with me. And it wasn't until 5 years later that I actually conceived him.
Wow.
And that journey was long, and it's not like we were trying to conceive that entire time. It was a whole process to open up that portal eventually. And yeah, the process in some ways was hard, and conscious conception triggered a lot of my buttons around control. How much can I let go? How much can I surrender? How much can I get out of the way? How much can I trust what I'm receiving? And so that was one of the big motivators to making this course, is because I know that road can feel a little bit lonely, and to have that emotional and spiritual support is really, really helpful, I think.
Yeah. And I want to point out here that piece around that you can connect with your spirit babies for so many years before they take physical form and or ever take physical form. And another way of framing it is, your spiritual guides, or just playing with whatever that connection is, really, because I saw something in our network the other day that someone said, um, I've been really feeling my spirit baby, so I guess that means like I have to get pregnant now. And I was like, that's not what that means at all. Like, I don't know what it means, but
Right.
I felt my children in spirit form since I was a little girl. And I
Right.
used that as a guide to make my life be the best life it could be, so that it would be easeful for them. Like, I used it as a motivator for, I left bad relationships because of dreams of my spirit babies.
Yeah, exactly. They're incredible beings of light that come to purify us
Mm-hmm.
on all levels. And I think that's also something I really want to communicate today, is these souls are God. I mean, these souls that are wanting to come to earth now, they are warriors of light, I think. And the more we can really open ourselves up and treat them with that reverence, so that and do that work so that we really purify, just the greater their opportunities are going to be, because they're going to come in and not have to do a bunch of crazy shadow work, because we've already done a lot. Of course, there's still going to be more to do, I guess, for a while. I don't know, I'm assuming, but we it's our
But it's a continuum. Yeah,
duty. It's
totally.
a continuum, but I really feel like it's our duty to do that. And that piece also, I think, can feel pretty alarming for some people who are trying to conceive. I know that, gosh, this baby we'll get into in a little bit that I just had was a massive purifier. Wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's just kind of review again real quick. If you're new to this, conscious conception is just the process of awareness around conceiving. And like Nancy said, that is a super individualized process that can look different for everyone. It could be very ritualistic. It could be more nutrition based. It could be all of it. But I really do think the kind of the work around it, like Nancy pointed to, is contending consciously with the spirit realm and with the process of opening our bodies as women and mothers, to house a new soul, and understanding that that's a co-creation. So we're not in charge of the timing, that all we can do is create our container, in spirit, to be open and available, with as much, consciousness and love and light and health and everything as we are up for. And that's what I think most women I've talked to who have experienced a conscious conception journey is it's different, to my mind, than trying air quotes for a baby. It
Mm.
feels, I'll just speak for myself. It feels deeper than that, because it's actually opening up to the co-creative experience, where all we can do is be open, and all we can do ultimately is receive. And in what timing, we don't know. And it's such a beautiful way to lay a foundation down for the work of pregnancy, the work of
Yep.
motherhood, the work of birth,
Totally.
stepping into the
Yep.
unknown and in a co-creative allyship. Anyway, so I just kind of wanted to recap that with that language, and then we are going to get into what about unconscious conception, because that's just as great. This isn't a better, worse, anything like that at all. There's just different ways to do this. But I will say, I just think there's something so deeply romantic about consciously conceiving a baby. It's just such a romantic idea, because of the awareness that it requires and the work that it supports. But that's not to say that if you didn't consciously conceive your child and you're pregnant today, that there aren't tons of beautiful, fun ways to meet your spirit baby, the baby that's inside you taking physical form. And of course, that's so much of what Nancy walks you through with the course. So you haven't missed the boat to get aware and tuned in with this precious spirit who is coming through you, if the pregnancy was a surprise or anything like that.
Yeah. I love the way you put that with the co-creation. I emphasize that a lot in the course. And to be honest, that's the course kind of came through in that way, where what I realized was that throughout this course, I'm just simply guiding you to just peel back all those layers so that you can surrender more and more and more into that co-creative process and surrender to that divine timing and all that comes with that.
Beautiful. So tell us a little bit about the birth of this course and why you wanted to do it and how it intertwined with what I believe to be a bit of a surprise spirit coming to you.
Right. Okay. So let's just rewind a tiny bit to when Elijah, my second born, was around 3 months old. And my daughter and my husband were both like, okay, when's the next one coming? When's the next one coming? And I'm like, let me have a little bit of a breath here, guys. I'm 3 months postpartum. But the point of that is, I think we all felt it. There was another being who wanted to come in, and everybody was aware of it, not just me, but the whole family.
Wow.
And so, and I got my moon back. My menstrual cycle came back very well. For me, it felt very early at 6 months postpartum. I was like, what because with my first, it came back a year and a half later, and I was still fully breastfeeding, so I was just kind of shocked. And I guess I took that a little bit as a sign of like, okay, this one might be coming sooner than you think. And I had some kind of warnings from spirit realm as well. And this woman who many of you might know, her name is Sunny Carl. She wrote the book Sacred Birthing. She also wrote a book about conceiving Souls of Magnificence, I think it's called. She lived briefly in my town. And she told me around my birthday, I had a little gathering, and she came and she told me, be careful because, this baby is really close. And I was like, yeah. I know, but not yet. My husband and I were embarking on a house building project. There was a lot going on, and not to mention just having a tiny little baby still,
Who doesn't
but
sleep.
I did end up yeah, exactly. Pretty much still. Yeah, but I did end up conceiving at around 9.5 months postpartum. And you and I had talked about this Spirit Babies course, and I was kind of playing with the idea of creating it at some point. And yeah, they happen to coincide, the conception and the sort of conception of the course as well, I guess you could say. And so it was kind of peculiar to me, because I would call this one like a half conscious conception because I did feel the spirit, and we all did, and we were all aware, and we all were saying yes, just not quite yet. Yes, just not quite yet. And so this was my own lesson. And I had lessons in this before when I was conceiving my son as well, Elijah. But with this baby, it was another layer of trusting the divine timing. And wow, it really worked me to the core. But yeah, I started to work on the production of this course basically in my second month of pregnancy. And so it was interesting that the pregnancy unfolded as the course unfolded too, and so did my house being built. So it was,
Mm-hmm.
I actually felt like I was giving birth to triplets, like
Totally.
it was really intense. It required a lot of me, and so many layers of surrender, and definitely I had a lot of resistance, especially to the house building project happening at the same time. And I was like, I want to be in my bathtub to give birth. And I just had to continually let go, like have my intention, but then let go, and I talk about that a lot in the course too. It's like, how can we manifest from that deeply feminine place? I think it's about setting that intention and putting it out there almost as a prayer, but
Mm-hmm.
then just letting it go, because forcefully trying to hold on creates a lot of tension, I think, and resistance in our bodies.
Another way of putting it would be like create the intention or the prayer and then open up to it, open up to how it's going to look, because it's not going to look the way
Mm,
we think it's going to look. And the more open and letting go, and just the more kind of fluid and curious and open we can be about it, the way it comes back is just so, like, that's the fun to me. That's like the whole
mm,
game, and that really, I love the term co-creative,
mm.
because if you are in awareness that you are really co-creating your reality,
Yeah,
your
that's
day,
true.
your babies, your timing, your house, your flow, then it actually can feel like this game of like, how is the universe going to show up for me today? And just like, there's just can be so much playfulness about it. Yeah, I'd love for you to speak a little bit more about just the work of this pregnancy, because, as your friend, it seemed like this pregnancy really worked you. It really freaking worked you. And I love that so much, because I think it kind of highlights or what's the right word? It kind of shuts down this notion that like things just get
Mm.
easier like the more experienced of a mom you are, and I just, and maybe in some ways, of course, I'm sure that can feel true. But from the outside, I just see you as really down for the work and really honest about it and really open to it. And this baby pregnancy timing, all of it really did seem rich with work and new layers of, yeah, just kind of parts of yourself. And yeah, I'd love to just hear kind of more about how you, now being 2 weeks out, could contextualize like how it worked you.
Yeah, it's so funny now that I'm on the other side of it. It's like, oh, that was fine. Oh, that was nothing to worry about. But my God,
Yeah.
it was, at
Mhm.
times I felt that there were things to worry about. And God, so many things happen in this pregnancy. I was like, I don't even know if I can remember them all. But to start with, it was quite interesting because I found out I was pregnant with this baby in exactly the same town in Sweden, which is like a village, a tiny town, that I found out I was pregnant with my first child, who's now 12 years old.
Wait, what do you
Okay,
mean?
because
You were in that village in
yes,
Sweden?
we traveled to Sweden. My ex-husband is Swedish, the father of my first child, and my daughter always goes to Sweden in the summer. This time we went with her, and I found out I was pregnant there in the
Yeah, that's
same
weird.
exact time of year. I mean, maybe even to the date, like beginning of August
Wow.
in this tiny town. And so immediately I felt that it was a cycle of healing taking place. Something
Mm.
was going on that I didn't fully understand, and frankly still don't. But something got completed or something was being healed. I don't know, but it was quite peculiar, and a little bit shocking, although not shocking because we had all felt the baby. We had felt these sort of warnings, and you know, yeah, the baby was there now. So one of the ways in which I got worked, of the many ways, is when we returned home from Sweden, we all got very sick with some kind of weird stomach thing. And then
Oh.
I started to bleed. And this was around 2.5 months pregnant, maybe. And I thought for sure I was having a miscarriage because it was pretty, like, a good amount of blood. It wasn't just a little spotting. And I've never had a miscarriage. And so I was like, okay, well, here's an initiation into something else, something new. And I'm just going to accept this. I kind of made peace with it. And then no, it wasn't a miscarriage. So there was this
Whoa.
whole weird scare.
So how did you know? Sorry if this is a stupid question, but how did you know it wasn't a miscarriage?
Well, I basically just waited. And I contacted my friend who's a retired midwife who I go see. She's an amazing, just like witchy woman, and she gives me flower essences, and we talk about my emotions, and she lets me borrow her fetoscope. And she was the one who said, I don't actually think this is a miscarriage. I would just wait it out, and I think it's one of those moments of like, you guys as a family can say, okay, we're really welcoming you here, baby. So it's like
Wow.
yeah, I don't know how she worded it, but it was quite beautiful. And so I just sat with that, and then the day passed. And I think I also wrote in our membership, and some women were like, well, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that. So just wait and see, right? And I was in communication with you a little bit too. And yeah, you're like, it's just a wait and see thing. So eventually it passed, and it was only like a day of bleeding, or maybe two max. But that was a weird little scare. And then we got kicked out of our house, which we were in temporarily until our other one was finished being building, the one we're currently in now. But it was a surprise because basically they needed to turn our house into an office space. And so it was like, oh my God, I'm going to move twice in this pregnancy.
Oh God, I remember that now.
Yeah. And so there was just so much resistance in my being to the flow of life because it felt hectic and just not what I wanted. And so I think those were the layers that had to continually peel back. It's like, okay, just go with it. And what I have learned throughout this process, time and time again, is that it always was so much worse in my head than when the moment actually came, to moving. Like, yeah, moving sucks. It just does. But
I mean, that's pretty much always
right?
true, right?
I know. So yeah, it's just like, okay, can you let go of the stories around it, and can you just be in the present moment? Because actually you got through it and then it was done. So we moved to this funny house, and my friend called it the retro house because we moved in Mercury retrograde, and like everything was going wrong, and the water was having issues, and the this and the that, and there was this funky sink that was in like a corner. And so when you washed dishes and as the belly grew, you had to sort of lean over in this incredibly awkward way, and it was just funny and funky on a lot of levels. And again I had to just let go, and I was very attached to having a bath, and it didn't have a bath, and I had this like vinyl bathtub that I was using. And I had to make peace with that I might be giving birth in that house, because our construction was lagging a little bit. I mean, it's just how construction goes, I think, honestly. And I was already having contractions at like 35 weeks that I felt were pretty strong. So I thought, God, there's no way. I know it's hilarious because we'll get to that later, but I end up going much further over my date. Um, and but it was like, okay, I have to make peace with that. This might happen. And then all the while I'm creating this course, which was actually a beautiful, beautiful process in the whole journey. But it was just a lot, you know, birthing all these things at
Mm-hmm.
once and a lot of crazy stuff.
And had a 1.5-year-old.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, okay.
That
I
whole
want to
thing.
mention him actually. That was a big part of my journey too, because my milk dried up around a month 4 of pregnancy. And I just was sure that wasn't going to happen to me, you know? Even though like everybody else I talked to was like, yeah, I'm pretty much dried up. And I was like, that's not happening to me because I'm very committed to nursing him still and this and that. And yeah, it was gone pretty much. And I had pretty bad nursing aversion at some point, which I also was sure wouldn't happen to me. And,
You got the smackdown, man.
yeah. And I had to grieve that. I had a lot of grief come up. And honestly, I want to be really authentic and transparent here. I actually felt anger toward this baby for taking me away from Elijah. I really, I had to work with that a lot. And I felt that this baby the entire time was a girl. That was another funny thing because it's not. He's a boy. I mean, I was so sure, you know, because those were we received a name, and I had felt this super strong connection to Venus the whole pregnancy, and I felt all these different things, which
you didn't know that really it was penis. But
exactly. And not to say that this wasn't that baby. That's what is so serious with this whole thing. And I do talk about a lot in this course, is like a lot of people get that they're communicating with one sex or gender, however you want to put it, and then it ends up being a different one when they come out. And it could be,
it's just our like small mindedness of trying to compartmentalize these like epically divine spirits into a body, you know, into the physical.
Yeah. Exactly. But I did feel that I was working a lot with the dark feminine in this pregnancy.
we need shirts that say, "Don't gender my spirit, baby." Oh,
do
amazing. That should probably exist. Okay, but working with the dark feminine, which really was just like you and your connection to life, right?
Yeah.
Like you had to go into your own darkness.
Yeah, totally. But I was like being slayed, you know? And anyway, I was being transparent about that. I was having anger actually come up toward this baby. And that was so hard for me. So I'm like, how can I be mad at a freaking like baby? That doesn't make any sense, you know? But of course, this baby is just this pure being and a total mirror for me to see myself, you know? And of course, we know that happens all the time when we're parenting, but it also happens when we're gestating, I think. And so that was what was going on for me. And I had to work through that grief around needing to stop nursing Elijah. I mean, he was still kind of dry nurse, and now he's nursing again. So it all, you know, it's all good and it all worked out. But there were a lot of different things I needed to process around that.
Yeah, and it totally extends beyond just children, right? I mean, everything in our lives are reflecting the work that we need to do, whether it's our partners or trolls on Instagram. I mean, it really doesn't matter. It's like everything is actually a mirror back to ourselves and how we orient around our connection to the universe.
Absolutely. For sure.
And I mean, it's so understandable that, of course, it wasn't actually about the baby, but it was about how your life was going to change. And feeling, I imagine, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but I imagine feeling like you weren't done with Elijah being the baby.
Yeah, for sure. And my husband, yeah, it was intense. And my husband went through it too. He's like, I'm not ready for him to not be the only one, you know? Like, I know. So, but again, we just had to keep coming back to trust and keep coming back to life is always more expansive in the future than we could ever imagine. And looking back on my life, things that didn't make sense in the moment now looking back on them, of course, make perfect sense. And I see that it
Totally.
was divine timing, you know? And
Mhm.
so I was kind of leaning in on that a lot. And I would say that I did hold up those pillars of trust and faith throughout the process. And so did my partner, even when we felt like this is crazy, you know, and what are we doing? And everybody was like, you're insane. Why are you having two kids and building a house at the same time? Like, that's ridiculous, you know? And
You were like, I don't know.
and people were rude. People were rude
I
to
bet.
me, like in the beginning of the pregnancy. Oh my
Wow.
God. They're like, don't you have better things to do? I'm gonna get you guys
Wow.
a TV so that you can do other things aside from make babies. And
Those really sound like people you should keep close in your life. Those sound like really quality people. Okay, so I want to go a little bit into the course and then go into your actual birth story.
we have so
Just
much
for
to cover.
anyone, I know. So because we're on a timeline with
Yeah,
your
yeah.
construction starting up again, I'd love for you just to at this point, and obviously, we'll put the website where people can go check out more, and you can find everything. I'll just say it now at freebirthsocietycourses.com, and it's called Conscious Conception: Welcoming Your Spirit Baby Home. So people can go there, but just because we're on the topic, I would love for you to give a little bit of an overview of what this course is, who wants to buy it, who is it for, um, why would someone, need it in their lives right now, and then we'll kind of use that and shift it into the end of your pregnancy when you thought you were in labor for a month and then had a 5-second birth.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So I just want to start out by saying I feel that there's a lot of stuff out there online around conception. And I think it's more kind of like what you were saying at the beginning about, quote, trying to have a baby, and more this kind of baby as a product and maybe what you need to do to your body and this and that. And this course is not that. It's something totally different. I didn't know exactly what it was going to be when I started making it, even though I knew the themes of it. And what it ended up being is this journey to really, as you and I have talked about, to become your most aligned self, to become the best version of you so that you can really show up for your baby in this way. And so it covers a variety of things, but the way it ended up manifesting itself was it's a journey through the elements. And so it starts with earth and helps you to really ground and nourish yourself. And then it goes through to fire, which is all about the purification process, purifying your lineage, purifying yourself, anything that might come up in that way. And then it goes to air, which is all about making a connection to your spirit baby. And that module really focuses on that connection. And then it goes to water, which is about surrender and really trying to enjoy the process. And then ether, which is the end. And it kind of wraps it up with this stillness, kind of emphasis on stillness and on being and on even deeper than surrender somehow, just like this real total letting go and dropping into that divine trust and divine timing. And each module contains a video, which I like to think of these videos as transmissions. So I feel like I'm transmitting a certain kind of frequency and really helping you or the viewer to align and make it to your highest vibration possible. And then I share a practice in that video too that you can do throughout the module. And then there are guided meditations, which I'm really proud of these meditations. I spent a lot of time picking out the background music, and I've worked with the binaural beats so that they influence your brain waves so that you're either going into theta or delta state, which means that you're much more susceptible to receiving imagery and visions and having that kind of shamanic experience throughout these meditations. And then there is an allied section, and this is where I cover some different nutritional tips and flower essences that you can work with, herbal infusions, crystals, essential oils, and things of that nature. And then I also do some journal prompts and some rituals to help you kind of wrap up and integrate. And then there are stories that I do with women that I'm calling story time. So I chose 5 different women from around the world who had beautiful stories to tell about their conception process and or connecting with their baby in spirit. And you also tell yours, so that's 6. And I also tell my story about Elijah and this baby that I was currently, that now is born. So there's lots of story time. And then we have a few bonuses as well. And one of those is a meditation that's super beautiful. One of my favorite ones, actually. And that one you can even use in pregnancy to connect deeper with your baby. And then I include a mantra too. We sampled that mantra on our last podcast together. Yeah, I love that one. And so that one you can download and even include in your birthing playlist if you end up getting pregnant. And there's a resources section. So I think I haven't missed anything. Yeah. And so as far as who it's for, I think it's for that woman who recognizes that she not only does she want a baby, but she wants to do that work that we've been talking about, this whole call. She wants to do that work. She wants to unpeel those peel back those layers. She wants to release herself from resistance and fear, drop into a deeper trust, and of course, learn how to connect with her spirit baby. And I think this is also for women who already have potentially a deep connection, and the meditations and the videos and everything will just help them to go even deeper. But for those who are like, what is a spirit baby? It's also for you. Absolutely.
So. Yeah, beautiful. And so would this be something that someone could do prior to being actively ready?
Yes,
like physically ready?
For sure. In fact, I think that's even better. I mean, not really. It's all great, but yes, I think absolutely. To really take your time through each of these modules. And I say that in the course, like you can go through these one a week, or you can really take them all in and go through them like once a month. And so if you're a year out from saying like, in about a year, I want to try to conceive, you could absolutely take this course. And I think it would just help you to deepen in your connection with yourself and your baby.
Yeah. And I also imagine pretty confidently that even if, a woman was drawn to this and they weren't yet partnered, doing this to connect to your spirit babies absolutely can hone in and strengthen your field to call in the father, for your child. And that's just kind of another flip way to think about it. If you are currently single and feeling curious about this, just know that you don't have to be partnered to connect to your spirit babies and to do your work and to prepare yourself. And that actually, I would say, and it was my personal experience, of the more that I let my spirit babies in and connected with them, the clearer I got on the partner I wanted. And it really actively facilitated knowing, not to settle and finding the person that was really at the vibration that could match what these children were showing me.
Absolutely. I love that so much. In fact, I had a friend contact me who is not in partnership, and she was like, I want to take that course when it's out because I've felt a little baby, and I want to deepen that.
Totally.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, this is ours. This is women's, and obviously you do need a cell of a sperm, sure, but but I think the point is this is really stepping into this unknown and this deep work and this spirit play where you actually don't have to have all the pieces figured out, and you can start playing with what is already yours, which is your connection to the divine, your connection to the universe, your connection to the spirit world. You can already do this and let that play kind of actually be the thing that leads your life and your choices and your physical reality.
Definitely.
I mean, I've told the story on here, I'm sure somewhere, but I never felt our boy ever my whole life, really, like not with any clarity until the first night I slept with my now husband. And the first night that he and I were intimate like that, our son woke me up in my dream and was floating above me like a weird little cherub ghost baby.
Wow.
And he was fully like, that's my dad. I'm coming later. This is my name. And it was like, whoa, okay, cool. And I told Johnny and was like, oh, I just met our son. And he was like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Wow, that's amazing.
Okay, so that sounds amazing, and I'm just so proud of you that you did this, and wow, just what a cool tracking with your own pregnancy, um, and it is out now, and that is so cool. And you're only 2 weeks postpartum, and so I'm just really excited for all the women who are going to take this and learn and step into a whole nother way of interacting with their spirit, their womanliness, their their motherhood. It's just so, it's really for all women. So thank you for creating it. And you can go check it out at freebirthsocietycourses.com. And yeah, with that, let's shift into whatever you have to tell us about the end of your pregnancy.
So it was amazing, because I had all these doubts this whole pregnancy of, is the house going to be finished? Is the course going to be finished? Is the blah, blah, blah? There was something else I was working on. Oh, I was trying to establish my permanent residency abroad for my whole family in Mexico. Is that going to be done? And how am I going to do all this? And it actually, it all got finished. I mean, more or less. My house is still sort of under construction, but we moved in when I was 38 weeks pregnant. And we were determined to be in here, even though we didn't have a bedroom door at the moment of moving in. We moved in anyway. And so yeah, like I said earlier, there was this one day at 35 weeks pregnant where I was like, oh, wow, I might give birth now, because I had pretty back-to-back contractions for, I don't know, a few hours. And I kind of made peace with that. Okay, this baby is totally surprised me on all levels. So they're going to surprise me again. They're going to come now. That what definitely was not the case. I had much, much further to go. So I ended up going to 42 weeks pregnant, which was shocking to me because I, with my first baby, gave birth on exactly 40 weeks on the due date. And then with Elijah, I gave birth at 39 weeks and 5 days or something, 4 days. And so I was just certain I was not going to go over my date. And it's kind of like what you said earlier, Emily, like, it doesn't matter how many babies you have. They're all different. And now I really understand that to be true. They really are. And it's kind of annoying when people say that, but it's true actually. And all pregnancies are different, and you just have to roll with it,
And
I remember
it's like our human behavior. It's our human nature to look for patterns, but it does always kind of make me chuckle when, like, I'll hear, and I mean this totally lighthearted, but I'll hear like a second time mom be like, oh yeah, I always go early. And it's like,
right.
there's no always. Like,
You've only given birth twice. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, maybe if you are a mother of 9 and all 9 of your babies
Right.
went 43, like, Yolanda apparently,
Right.
like all of her 8 children went past 42. Like, okay, that's a pretty solid pattern, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that absolutely doesn't mean that one's not going to surprise her. And it just feels like kind of that's part of the tension too of the deeper into our mothering we get, or becoming a mom of 3, is like that human nature to look for patterns, but it's just a way to think we can control. And
Yeah.
so then of course you get blasted by your sweet baby being super cozy till 42 weeks, and just like what a example of the let go and the unknown, and just the how totally not in charge you are.
Yes, exactly. And so it was just, again, deepening and deepening and deepening into that, which had been sort of the whole journey for me in pregnancy. And then this freaking like coronavirus stuff starts happening. I'm just like, this is a crazy pregnancy. And so many weird things happen. Like, for example, I hired my friend who is an amazing woman. She's a doula, but she's also a postpartum doula. And I was like, okay, I told her I probably won't want you to be at the birth. Like, I do want to do this alone with my family, but I really want you to help me postpartum and also some stuff before I give birth. She's an amazing, she does like water massages and some kind of like energy work that is a little bit similar to cranial sacral work. Anyway, so she kind of rushes out here because she doesn't live in our town, thinking that for sure I'm going to be giving birth, and she stays here for 2 weeks and we're all just like waiting around for me to give birth. And so she ends up having to leave before I even give birth because of the whole coronavirus thing, and the route started closing, and she has a son who is only like 6, 7. And, she needed to get back. So I was like, okay, that plan is out the window. And then I had this midwife hired who was going to help me with paperwork. And she's the same woman who helped me with my last birth. And so it was the same deal. I'm not going to call you, but I do need help registering my baby afterward. Okay, no problem. She gets super sick and is in the hospital. And so I'm 41 weeks pregnant and get a message from her like, I can't do anything with you. I'm like, wow, this pregnancy is just like, I don't even know what to make of this anymore. So she has a backup woman for me, and it ended up being totally fine. This other woman came out the day after I gave birth and helped me with papers. So, it was fine. But like it did test again my trust. And you're not sane when you are that fully pregnant. You are just emotional. I mean, I was amazed at how fast my emotions could shift. And we were in contact a lot. You're like, how are you doing? I'm like, great. And then an hour later, I'm like, everything's so horrible. Yeah, and I'm never going to give birth. And so I had these off and on contractions that would come and go. But there were a couple of days peppered in the 3 weeks up to when I actually did give birth, where there were a good like 2 hours of back-to-back contractions, so I was like, okay, this is it, I'm going into labor. And that happened at least 3 times. And so by the time I went into labor, I was almost in denial about it. And the night before, I think I was in like what I would call transition, but just emotionally speaking, because I picked a fight with my husband for no reason at all, no good reason. And I was yelling at him. We don't fight usually ever. And then he yelled back at me. And then later he laughed and he was like, I don't know why I didn't just tell you were right and offer to rub your feet. Like, that's what you should do when you're 42 weeks pregnant. Like, yeah, that's right. Remember that. But, I picked a fight. I threw myself in my bed very dramatically. I said I was never going to give birth. And I literally felt that way, Emily. I mean, it was so irrational, and I knew how irrational it was. And I said that out loud. This is so irrational, but I literally feel like I will never give birth to this baby. And it was such an initiation into mystery with this baby too, because he wasn't as loud as Elijah was in the spirit baby kind of communication process, which was a little bit ironic. Like, as I'm creating this course, and this baby was pretty quiet. And I even felt that way, like leading up to the birth, like, no, I literally am never going to give birth to this baby because I can't even feel it. Like, it's like so mysterious to me, And then I went into this whole freak out of like, the whole pregnancy's been hard, and now the birth's going to be so hard. And, I was going through the whole range. And my husband lovingly held space for me. And he was like, you know what? I actually think it's really going to be fine. I think it's going to be a great birth. I totally trust you. All of the right things that you can say.
Yeah.
And then
he wasn't like, you're fucked.
No, thank God. And then I fell asleep and nothing happened in the night. I woke up and I felt totally fine. And I felt just kind of like, okay, I don't actually care anymore when this baby's going to come,
Nice.
And
yeah, the let go.
Yeah, I'm just going to go on about my life, pretending like I'll never give birth. And then I was making breakfast, and suddenly I felt a sensation, and it felt a little bit different, but I was kind of in denial. And I actually felt that the head was right there. So when the
Whoa.
contraction was coming, I felt like this pushing down, And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to wait and see and continue to make my breakfast. And then a couple of minutes later, same thing. So I told my husband, I got to go upstairs. I don't know what's happening, but we'll see. And so a few minutes after that, I yelled down at him and said, you need to vacuum up here. Because I had cleaned my room so many times thinking I was going to give birth. But like by that point, it wasn't clean again,
No,
like,
you were never going to give birth once
yeah,
once you hit 42.
And he's like, okay, I'll get the vacuum. And so thankfully, one of our friends was here to be with our son, Elijah. And my daughter was away with a friend. And I'm like, I don't know. You should probably call Violet to come home, but I'm not sure. And he's like, I think I should. Because my birth with Elijah was only 2 hours. So we were prepared that it could be fast. And so I'm in the bathroom. I'm texting you like, okay, I think this is it. And I think I wrote in our group, send me some love. And it was literally half an hour, I think, after I wrote you that I was giving birth. So it was like making breakfast and then having a baby in your arms, And I'm yelling at my husband, light the fire and light the incense, because we had all these rituals planned, Poor
You're
guy.
like, do the rituals. Clean my room and do the fucking rituals.
Poor guy is like running.
You're like, make this spiritual, Brandon.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. And then he's like mopping on top of that, which I didn't ask him.
Oh my God.
Like,
that's hilarious.
And then eventually my daughter shows up and she knew she was going to be the one to film. And so she starts filming and I start filling up the tub because I realized like, I think it's happening soon. And it was the same kind of deal that I had with Elijah, which was, I think I need to go poop. But like it was the head,
Oh my God.
And I kept thinking that a couple of times. And then I had to remind myself, you have done this before and it was the same thing. And it's probably your baby and not that you have to go to the bathroom. And so I quickly filled up the tub, got in and she starts filming me. And I say on the video, Brandon, don't leave again. And so he finally gets in there after doing the rituals and the mopping and the vacuuming. And I swear he was born 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
After Brandon got in there. And so it was such an interesting birth. I was very sober somehow. I feel like I went through all those other labor phases sort of the weeks before, And so when the moment came, it was just like ejection, And I was very
well, it was
sober.
only like how long?
I mean, literally from the minute I felt the sensation downstairs to when I was birthing him was 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's you didn't have time for the whole thing.
I didn't have time. I didn't have the birth pause. I didn't have I mean, it was just boom, he was there.
So how was it for you to like kind of keep up with that?
Oh my God. Weird.
Yeah,
really weird, actually. I almost missed it. I almost missed the sort of psychedelic, state that you can enter. And I was like, And even afterward, my husband says, that was a little anticlimactic, Nancy. I'm like,
hey, I did all the rituals for this.
I just gave you a baby, dude. It was not that anticlimactic, but I think what he meant was funny. That like, we didn't have that drop in. We were just there, and that's birth sometimes. So it's all good, but it was pretty hilarious. But something magical about the experience is that my baby was born in his amniotic sac. And so as he was coming out, the sac hadn't broken. And Brandon says in the video, she's here. Because we all thought it was a girl. And I don't know, he said something about the sac still. So I didn't like really notice it when I was giving birth, but later in the video I got to see it. And then once the whole body emerged and I pulled him up, the sac had broken by that point. But yeah, it was pretty amazing because then I like immediately see his balls and I was like, it's a boy. hilarious.
So tell me a little bit more about the sac. Did it break or did you have to peel it open?
No, so he when he came out, it was still there. So the head didn't come. It was like the sac coming first, the
Mm.
bubble kind of. And then it happened so fast, once I pulled the body out, then it had broken by that point, but it
Okay.
wasn't like an intentional breaking of the sac. But we had to peel off the sac from the top of his head,
Mm-hmm.
So we still have that, and we were going to make a little drum out of it. So anyway,
you catch the baby yourself.
I did. Yeah, I did. And it was an amazing birth. I mean, I no tearing or anything like that. I was really being mindful to support myself the whole time. And I wasn't really thinking. It was just all very primal. I said some funny things as I was giving birth to him. I started off kind of alming, and then I did one serious scream, which I'm so bummed my daughter did not get on film. But she said it hurt her ears so badly that she had to like step out of the bathtub area. And I told her I was ripping open the space-time continuum with my scream to get the baby to come down. What it felt like. It's so primal, And then the last bit when he's coming out, I'm saying, "Oh baby, oh baby, oh baby," like in this kind of just bizarre.
Aww.
I don't even know accent. It's just so funny the things you say, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's almost just like a sound, like as a sound healer, I kind of look at it like that too. It's almost just the sound healing happening, or this just primal sounding, and you're not really making sense with your words always. But yeah, that's what I said. And then, yeah, we were just shocked that it was a boy. And yet at the same time, now that he's here, I'm like, oh yeah, of course you were a boy.
Totally.
It's weird. It's funny, huh? It's totally funny how that can be.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I birthed my placenta at my altar, and that was pretty straightforward, and within like 20 minutes, I think, and it was pretty big placenta. And we ended up doing a lotus birth, which wasn't planned. We were going to do a cord burning ceremony, but I chose that because I just felt like I got a message from my baby that he needed a slower transition onto earth. And that was quite beautiful. We did that as a family, kind of salted it and put rosemary and lavender on it. And we did some placenta prints before that. And then on day 3, it naturally just came off his cord. And I had an emotional release on that day. And I really felt like, okay, he's here with us now. He's actually on earth,
Totally. Oh.
So, yeah.
So intense.
So intense. But he's such a mellow dude. He's such a mellow little baby. It's so interesting. So funny.
Well, I think it really highlights how it was all like your stuff, like you're in a good way, like your projections, your expectations, your stuff, which is great because I mean, you're the one here on this planet, the baby's really new. So I think it's totally fair, but I think it is kind of a cool reveal, that like how it all makes sense at the end.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say or share?
Gosh, there's so much, but I feel like that's enough.
Okay, well.
Yeah, I'm just really excited. I'm really excited to have this course out. And I feel like I said, I'm on the other side of this birth now, and all that tension's just released itself. And I feel that I got really initiated into a new level of trust. And especially with the current like global situation, processing all that, it's like, whoa, it's been a lot. But at the end of the day, that's where it's taken me, is this deeper sense of trust, because what else is there to do, really?
It just becomes way more fun to choose that.
Yes,
I
exactly.
feel like the trying to control and all the other stuff it just gets boring.
That's true. It's true.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, go check out her course. It's amazing.
Thank you so much, Emily. Thank you.
Well, thank you, girlfriend. I'm proud of you, and it's an honor to witness you. And you're amazing. Everything you're putting into the world, including your children, are just so lovely. That's it for today, everyone. Join us next week for another episode of the Freebirth podcast. Thanks for joining us, and remember, your body, your choice. Lots of love.